Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. With patch 3.18 just around the corner, I was frequently being asked what I was planning to do for early league currency. And one of the things that I had in mind was using Rog extensively. Rog is one of the 4 expedition NPCs, and he's the one that revolves around crafting of items. So Rog will allow you to choose between a number of different items that he's got for sale. They're generally pretty bad, they just look like rares you might identify off the ground, but you can then modify them a number of times using various crafts that he offers you, and these require the various artifacts that you'll pick up while you're running content for Rog. So if you're on an expedition where Rog is the NPC, you'll pick up various order artifacts, and then you'll be able to turn those in to influence these crafts. A number of these are very powerful. Some of them are things that would just be fundamentally broken if they were allowed on an item that you chose to provide, but because they're items that Rog chooses to provide, the power level is considerably lower. So for instance, upgrade all of the mods on an item to the maximum possible tier is a craft that would just be supremely powerful if you could get this on an item that you generated for that purpose. But when it's an item that Rog provides you, it still has some potential. It can be really good, but it's not nearly as strong. This was my league start strategy until the patch notes, and part of that was due to the fact that Rog seemed to give better results than you would expect. And there is a line in the patch notes under bug fixes that says, fixed a bug where Rog's crafting options that re-roll prefixes or suffixes multiple times were not rolling each set of modifiers independently. So what a lot of players suspected was happening was that when you used Rog's craft that says something like, re-roll prefixes on an item 6 times, giving you the rarest set, then what it would do was generate 6 individual prefixes, and then from those ones, choose the 1, 2, or 3 that had the highest required item level and provide you with those. Now, had this hypothesis been correct, this would have meant that doing weird things like using item level 81 shields would have been the best way that you could use Rog effectively. However, instead of that bug that a lot of us suspected existed, there was a different one, and this was causing the modifiers to not be generated independently. So let's just say that you had a belt from Rog, just a heavy belt. You use one of these reroll prefixes 6 times. The first roll comes up with life and no other mods. At that point, the next set of prefixes would be generated, but this would ban life rolls from it. Now, this would actually be bad for you, but it would cause one interesting thing to happen, and that is that the rarest mods on the item would show up disproportionately often. And whilst this wouldn't necessarily be good on all item slots, for a number of slots, it was the reason that Rog was producing such ridiculously good items. It's because you could get rarer mods far more often than was intended. So with that in mind, the Rog fixes mean that there will be less of a bias towards the very rarest mods than there have been in the past. This doesn't mean they won't show up, it just means that they won't be showing up as frequently as they did. What does this mean for using Rog yourself in order to craft gear? I don't think it really means all that much unless you are someone that really took Rog to a min-maxing level. If you're the sort of person that runs a few expeditions here and there when you encounter them, and then you go to Rog and you think, all right, I'm looking at these items, I'm looking for something that is missing one piece, and then I'm going to try and use Rog's crafts to put that missing piece there. Or alternately, you can look for an item and then go, I am fishing for the very rare craft that upgrades everything to the top tier mods. If I get it, what's an item that it would be spectacular on? I'm going to start with that item, and I'm just going to hope that I get that all mods are tier 1 roll. If you're the sort of person that does that, then these changes should have minimal impact on you. Where they're going to have an impact is if you're the sort of person that had a meticulous spreadsheet for the item levels that you're always chasing. What items do I recommend using Rog on if you do decide to try and craft things for the trade market with Rog? In that case, I would suggest that you look for shields that have a dexterity requirement. Shields with a dexterity requirement can roll spell suppression, and as a result, spell suppression, everyone wants it at the moment. It's one of the most powerful defensive layers in the game. It's very, very, very strong, and the shield has big gobs of it. If dexterity is the only stat they require, then the shield has twice the chance of rolling spell suppression, and so your Rog chances are going to be even better. Second thing I would suggest is the same, except it's chess pieces. Chess pieces that roll spell suppression and a bunch of other good mods on them can be really good early league. Now, this is something that only applies very early in the league, but you'll often find players who will be very happy to trade for you to get that tier 2 life, tier 2 spell suppression chest that's got a resist on it. That's the sort of thing that will sell early in a league pretty well. The same is true to a much lesser extent in the other inventory slots, so in the helmet, in the gloves, and in the boots. If you can get spell suppression in conjunction with other good mods, that's really good. Next is the amulet slot. Now, the amulet slot is much worse than it was even last league. The reason that people got good results from amulets with ROG was actually this bug. Because it could ban a number of different mods that could roll, it meant that it was more likely to get the very rare +1 to the level of spell skill gem rolls, and as a result, ROG is not going to be rolling that as often. If you've got an amulet offered to you that is item level 75, 76, 77, 78, then perhaps try for it, but otherwise I would say mostly ignore amulets from ROG. Rings, however, are really good. On the one hand, you can craft for people who are intending to play a Crystallized Omniscience build and try to get multiple stats on it. Maybe that sometimes things will roll in that way. But a lot of the time, things roll in a triple resist direction. There's been a bit of a shift in where people get their resists back towards using rings for resistances a bit more. So for that reason, if you get a ring that has a couple of high tier resists on it, that's potentially really good. You can then just go and benchcraft life on it if it doesn't already have life, or you can benchcraft energy shield and capture that market instead. So there's lots of things that you can do when it comes to crafting rings. The next thing you can do is you can shoot for the moon with weapons. So if you find a weapon that has the right mods with the wrong tiers, then that is a potential starting point. What you're hoping for here is getting that miracle of raise all mods on this item to tier 1. This will not happen often, but when it does, the payoff is truly spectacular. So if you find an item that has, say, Squires, which is the bottom tier hybrid physical damage and accuracy roll, Razor Sharp, which is a medium tier flat physical damage roll, and also has Cruel, which is a medium tier physical percent roll. Those are perfect prefixes for a physical damage weapon, but the wrong tiers. This is the sort of item that I would take from ROG, and then I would just go through basically fishing, hoping to get upgrade all mods to tier 1. If you hit it, fantastic. You have got an absolute monster of an item. Even if the base is imperfect, you'll have something that is truly spectacular. The vast majority of the time you won't hit it. I've only seen upgrade all mods to tier 1 twice in the time I've been running around with ROG, but sometimes just a 1 in 50 or 1 in 100 chance of getting a many dozens of exalts, maybe even many hundreds of exalts payoff is definitely worth it. Additionally, this goes double if you've got bows. Bows are fantastic for ROG if their item level is 86, and that's because it's not that rare to see the mod of Splintering. Of Splintering is a mod that reads bow attacks fire 1 additional arrow. If you get of Splintering and then you upgrade it to Of the Many, which is the top tier version of that that is only available on item level 86 bows, then you have a starting point for something fantastic. And lastly, elemental damage weapons. If you find a weapon that has all 3 different elements, even if it's low tier, so flat added cold to attacks, flat added fire to attacks, flat added lightning to attacks, this is a really powerful starting point as well. And this is something that you should probably fish for and protect those mods, so don't roll over them unless you have to, and try to get that upgrade everything to maximum tier. The last tip I'd have for ROG is be quite happy to walk away. Sometimes the crafts that he offers you are terrible and you just want to say, all right, I'm just going to start over on a new item. This item, I'll just vend it to you and I'm going to start over with a new item and hopefully get there. Actually, that's the second last tip. The very last tip is if you get a base that's worth something, take it. And one of the things that's really strong with ROG, if you're one of the first players to level 90, and by first, I mean, really you'd need to be in the first maybe 5,000 players to level 90 for this to work, then what you can do is just simply sit in your hideout, spamming ROG all day, buying his item level 86 bases that people will want, and just listing them for sale. You can use scrap metals then to re-roll them. You can't get item level 86 stuff off the expedition NPCs until your character level is 90, but once you do, you'll get quite a number of item level 86 bases. There's also I-85 bases that can sell as well, so if you've got a bit of a sense as to the base market, that can be really good. That's all I've got. Mega Valobs have interesting results, and don't be afraid to continue using ROG after the nerfs to him. They're not going to gut him. He is definitely worse than he was, but he's still going to be good.